Hello classmates and Dr. Johnson. The following presentation will cover Week 2's discussion thread, which involves quite a bit of material. My name is Steve Turner, and because of the limited time I have, I would like to get right to the presentation. We will start our discussion by quickly looking at Wilson's dichotomy, which is also known as the politics-administration dichotomy. In 1887, President Wilson wrote an essay titled The Study of Administration. Within that essay, he discusses dividing the government into two spheres, politics and administration. This work was done as a way to establish boundaries for public administration, which includes government. We will now take a closer look at Wilson's dichotomy. Let's start with the politics side of the dichotomy. Wilson says that it is the politics side in which choices regarding what government should do is determined by the elected representatives. Now let's take a look at what the administration side looks like. On the administration side of Wilson's dichotomy, Wilson explains that this is the side which serves to carry out the dictates of the populace or the community. The administration should make these attempts using the most efficient procedures and without worrying about the political aspects. In other words, administrators should not allow the politics of the current day to impact decisions that are what's most beneficial for the community. I think a modern day example of this would be what we can see today with President Trump and the congressional committees. And here we have President Woodrow Wilson, who is our country's 28th president. President Wilson served 2 terms from 1913 to 1921. We now come to Frederick Winslow Taylor, who also took a look at management within the public administration sector. Mr. Taylor approached public administration based on defined laws, rules, and principles. Taylor focused on the individual worker and attempted to determine how the worker can be more efficient within the workplace. His goal was to increase workers' efficiency by reducing the distance, the time, and the motion that the worker was required to use in order to complete their task. Taylor's scientific approach can be seen in the experiment which he developed. The experiment is called the science of shoveling. This is where Taylor worked off of the premise that each shovel load of material would affect the daily output of the worker. Taylor was able to determine that an average shovel load of 21 pounds would produce the greatest number of times per day the worker could shovel. In a modern day setting, this management style might be seen in a widget factory, as the managers would attempt to increase the number of widgets the worker can produce. Management might rearrange the assembly line or move people around in order to increase the efficiency of the workers. Now let's meet Luther Gulick, who is an American social scientist and an advisor on federal government reorganization. Mr. Gulick described the functions of public management using the acronym POSD-CORP, which stands for planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. Gulick says that these activities are the essence of management, and they must be performed if organizations are managed effectively. Planning is when the worker prepares herself and her organization to move effectively into the future. Planning is also closely related to the managerial work of decision making, which cuts across many of the other areas. Organizing is related to many different activities in the organization and creates levels of hierarchy, including who reports to whom. Staffing involves the organization's hiring, training, and developing their workers to be able to successfully complete the tasks and activities of the organization. Directing is a function of management, and it is often the most visible and dynamic function. There are three critical subcategories, which are leading, motivating, and changing things when necessary. Coordinating, another management function, occurs when managers make sure that the many different workers are assigned to the right places within the organization. Reporting establishes the foundation for accountability. Reports allow the organization to analyze and keep records of all the activities and the performance of the organization, which is useful information for the elected officials, the citizens in the community, and others who the managers must answer to. Budgeting involves managing the organization's resources, and more specifically the finances. Included in budgeting are the budget and plans, and also the ability to secure funding for the organization. This concept of public management is often seen in public safety, especially modern day public safety, who are constantly hidden each one of these activities. This is a good system that allows for accountability as well as to identify the strengths and weaknesses within the organization. And now we will briefly talk about Max Weber's contribution to public administration. Max Weber was a German sociologist and political economist, among other titles. Max Weber developed many ideas on how operations can be organized. Weber developed what is known as Weber's bureaucracy, which is meant for large organizations, either public or private sector. Weber says that these bureaucracies have clearly defined hierarchies and they employ qualified people that must follow strict rules. Often when we hear the term bureaucracy, we get a negative or a bad feeling inside. Well, Weber's bureaucracy is not a term that he uses as a negative. Weber says that the bureaucracy is necessary to achieve the most efficient way to organize any organization or operation. And while bureaucracy and efficiency are often found going opposite directions, Weber says that this just is not the case. And now we come to Mary Parker Follett. Miss Follett is known as the mother of modern management. It's been said that Miss Follett was years ahead of her time with her ideas on leadership. Miss Follett disagreed with the management theories of Frederick Taylor, and she stressed the importance of collaboration and shared decision making. The principles that developed her theory of management include direct contact, which is contact between managers and workers. She says that coordination with the employee should be done at the early stages, and there is a reciprocal relationship between the workers, regardless of their level within the organization. Ms. Follett also believes that there is a continuous process of coordination within the organization. Ms. Follett's theories of leadership can be seen in practice even today. There are many private sector as well as public sector employers who empower the employee and allow the employee to make decisions at their level, which creates the most efficient and effective way to complete the task. As we come to our final expert in this area, we meet Mr. Herbert Alexander Simon, who is an American economist and cognitive psychologist. Simon developed what is known as bounded rationality. Mr. Simon says that bounded rationality is when human beings or workers are bounded in their capacity to solve problems, and therefore they need other people within the organization to work with them. Mr. Simon sees organizations as decision-making systems, which involve two primary sets of decisions: the decision to be part of the organization and the decision to contribute to the organization. Mr. Simon argues this theory because he believes that people do not make rational decisions, and they will seek the best solution for themselves and not necessarily what is best for the organization. His ideas about decision making could be found in almost any business office in today's society. It is hard to argue with the idea that many employees provide the bare minimum effort, and some may even attempt to avoid contributing to the organization at all. Before we wrap up the presentation, I'd like you to take a quick look at the illustration. As you see, public administration is in the middle of the illustration with all of the other concepts that we just spoke about surrounding public administration. This is a good illustration to show how public administration could not escape or move away from the area without bumping into one of these concepts that we've discussed here today. If you're interested in diving deeper into any of the concepts which were discussed in this presentation, I provide you with my references that I use for this assignment. Thank you and God bless.